Have Polyphony Digital finally met their match when it comes to game detail? Forza Motorsport was expected to be the one to finally match or even surpass Gran Turismo 7 in terms of detail. However, we all know how that went. All eyes are now on Kunos, as the recent reveal of Assetto Corsa Evo's first in-game screenshots have people saying that GT7 may have finally been beaten in the visual department. Is this true though? In this video, I'm going to be examining the validity of this theory in a somewhat unorthodox way, as you might expect. The screenshots released on Assetto Corsa Evo's Steam page are from a pre-release version of the game and will almost certainly be subject to change and improvement. Bearing this in mind, in order to even the playing field, during the comparisons we'll be tying one of Gran Turismo 7's hands behind its back, in a sense, by comparing Assetto Corsa Evo with the last gen version of Gran Turismo 7. Gran Turismo 7 running on a PS4 Pro to be precise. Can a brand new PC title be a last gen console game? Let's find out. We're going to take a look at both the cars and the tracks, the latter of which did show some very interesting differences, so make sure you stick around to see them. Brideside. First, taking a look at the photos comparing Brideside here, it becomes clear that there is a big difference in the way that the tracks are modelled, and I mean a big difference. Let's start with one of the more obvious differences, being the trees on the side of the track. Here, the density of the trees themselves seems to be pretty similar. However, the big difference is in the size of the trees and the quality of the models. In Assetto Corsa Evo, they are much taller and appear to be full 3D models, whereas in Gran Turismo 7 they are simple 2D sprites that follow the camera as you drive along the track. An interesting observation here is that in Assetto Corsa Evo, thanks to the taller trees, it is possible to see some detail further off the track, such as this road here behind the trees. This detail is almost completely absent in Gran Turismo 7, represented only by a low quality surface texture. Details such as the grass found under and around these trees seems to be more or less a match. Another interesting difference that can be seen here is the presence of this catch fence in Assetto Corsa Evo, which is not present in Gran Turismo 7, as well as the way the curbing itself is painted. In Assetto Corsa Evo, the strips of red and white are slightly longer than in Gran Turismo 7. And you may have noticed that the shot in Gran Turismo 7 was not taken from quite the same distance as the one in Assetto Corsa Evo. That's due to the in-game camera not being able to go any further. To show the rest of the corner in Gran Turismo 7, I've included a photo from another angle which shows the rest of the tyre barrier. Now, the tyre barriers in the two games do not appear to follow the same layout, with the one in Assetto Corsa Evo perhaps following the curve of the track a bit more. One more difference I noticed is the presence of this tree in the foreground of the Assetto Corsa Evo photo, which is not present in Gran Turismo 7. Now we'll take a look at some visual comparisons of the cars present in both games. Something to bear in mind during these comparisons is that it is pretty difficult to perfectly match the screenshots between the games, and there will therefore be some differences in the angles and lighting. However, all screenshots of the cars in Gran Turismo 7 were taken in an indoor showroom scenario, as with Assetto Corsa Evo. That being said, let's jump straight into the first comparison. The iconic Alfa Romeo Giulia GT Am. Starting at the front here, aside from the difference in lighting, what we have at first glance is two very similar models. However, upon taking a closer look, we can see that there are in fact some subtle discrepancies. The paint in Gran Turismo 7 does look flatter than the paint in Assetto Corsa Evo. This could be due to a difference in the type of paint, but I definitely feel that the way this paint looks in Assetto Corsa Evo is a bit more realistic, as it looks a lot more like a layer of paint on top of the car's material. It has a certain depth to it that Gran Turismo 7 does lack. Now, one area where Gran Turismo 7 certainly does not lack is in the detail of the model itself. If we zoom into the bodywork surrounding this front headlight in Assetto Corsa Evo, the slight imperfections in the model become visible. The bodywork isn't completely rounded. Zooming into the same area of bodywork in Gran Turismo 7, however, reveals a very different story. The bodywork is completely rounded, with a much higher level of detail. It's truly remarkable that this level of model fidelity can be achieved at all, in my opinion. Everything from the way it curves around the housing of the headlight to the way the edges are rounded off is represented in stunning detail here. Moving on to the rear, it's more or less the same scenario. Once again, I prefer the way the paint is presented here in Assetto Corsa Evo. And similar to the bodywork surrounding the headlights, the bodywork surrounding the rear lights displays the same small imperfections in Assetto Corsa Evo that are completely smoothed out in GT7. However, another thing that I want to point out here is the differences between the carbon fibre elements in both games. In GT7, the carbon fibre is quite muted, without much emphasis on the way the material is woven. In Assetto Corsa Evo, the carbon fibre weave is much more defined, and therefore the perceived level of detail is far greater. This could simply be an artistic choice, but the final result in Assetto Corsa Evo is much more pleasing to look at. Moving on to the interior now, aside from the gap in resolution here, the quality of the interior seems to be basically identical. Now, if I really had to pick out something, it would be the difference in quality of the Alfa Romeo badge on the wheel, which does seem to be of high quality in Assetto Corsa Evo, even considering the gap in image resolution. And the way this knob and dial are modelled on the steering wheel, Gran Turismo 7 presents a higher level of detail in this case. The spec of the two cars also appears to be slightly different, with different colour accents such as this door strap and the stitching around the steering wheel. And there does appear to be an infotainment screen in Assetto Corsa Evo's version of that car, whereas that feature is missing in Gran Turismo 7. And we know Assetto Corsa has had some crazy infotainment mods. Now the next screenshot we'll be looking at is this close-up of the front headlight of the Alpine A110. Now it's much the same story as with the Alfa Romeo, being slightly better paint simulation in Assetto Corsa Evo, but better overall model detail in Gran Turismo 7. It's perhaps even clearer here that the model in Assetto Corsa Evo, where the bodywork curves around the headlight, is of a lower level of detail. Once again, Gran Turismo is providing a much more true-to-life model when it comes to the level of detail on show, as can also be seen inside the headlight housing itself, with the different internal structures of a visibly higher quality. Moving on now, this time we'll be taking a look at some screenshots from Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. Here we have a view into Surtees and to the track beyond. It is important to note that Gran Turismo 7 does not currently allow wet weather racing at Brands Hatch. Now it's a bit difficult to properly distinguish any eventual differences between the two, as a lot of the detail in Assetto Corsa Evo is obscured by rain and also the depth of field used in the photo. That being said, it certainly does look like Assetto Corsa Evo has higher resolution track textures, be it the track surface or the flat grass texture, alongside more dense grass in general on the side of the track. These aren't necessarily things that you will notice while racing, but I know these details are greatly appreciated by the members of the community who are interested in things such as in-game photography of the races, whether that's scapes, Gran Turismo 7, or just in-game photos in Assetto Corsa. In this image, showing the steering wheel of the Lamborghini Huracan STO, the model detail actually appears to lean in favour of Assetto Corsa Evo this time. The Gran Turismo 7 image doesn't show the Huracan STO, but the two cars are still similar enough to be able to see that the level of detail in Assetto Corsa Evo is simply higher here, with higher quality assets used. I want you to pay particular attention to the differences between the materials used on the wheel in Assetto Corsa Evo, such as how the plastic surrounding the buttons here actually looks like glossy plastic, contrasting nicely with what appears to be an Alcantara material. It really shows that Kunos are not messing around when it comes to their asset quality, and this might actually be the first time in years that a game is looking like it might rival Gran Turismo on this front. Moving on to Porsche, Gran Turismo only has the RS version of 992 GT3, so we'll have to make do with this. I actually feel that the paintwork looks much more similar between the two in this case. However, I do really like the pattern that Assetto Corsa Evo have included on the surface of the GT3 here. The way that the paint is of a slightly different type and colour and clearly layered on top. It's a great detail and adds a lot to the realism. Where GT7 once again pulls away is in the model detail department, where there is a difference between the two in the bodywork surrounding the headlight. Gran Turismo 7 again has that perfectly rounded detail, whereas Assetto Corsa Evo still retains some of the imperfections seen in the other car models we've looked at. The final screenshots we're going to take a look at here are these ones on the exit of YouTube Corner. Now the first thing that probably is jumping out at you is this blue cabin here in Assetto Corsa Evo, which is not present in Gran Turismo 7. Now we had a look at this and it turns out that the blue cabin is also missing in iRacing, Forza Motorsport and the latest ACC scan. But it does exist in the current real life version of the track. Does this mean that Assetto Corsa Evo could potentially have the most up-to-date version of Nordschleife of any sim currently on the market? This could definitely be a game changer for all the die-hard Nordschleife fans out there. Aside from this big difference, there are also some differences in the size and placement of the trees alongside the track and in the density of the grass. After comparing all of these screenshots, I think that it's fair to say that even a pre-release Assetto Corsa Evo is looking absolutely fantastic, rivaling and even surpassing last gen Gran Turismo 7 in some aspects. I would say that Gran Turismo 7 is still on top in terms of its car models and detail, but when it comes to the track detail, which is known to often be Gran Turismo 7's weaker point, it's fairly clear to see that Assetto Corsa Evo has the upper hand. This comparison also shows that the technical wizards that are the team at Polyphony Digital, who have managed to pull off an incredible level of fidelity even on decade-old hardware. Let me know what you think of these comparisons down in the comments below, and please make sure you subscribe to this channel, as I will make sure to cover any new Assetto Corsa Evo news as soon as it arrives. I will see you next time.